There's a man you've probably never heard of. He drove a beat-up 2003 Lincoln Town Car to work every single day. He wore the same plain grey jacket. He ate lunch at a corner deli and left a $2 tip. His co-workers thought he was just another quiet, average guy getting through the week. And then one day, he didn't show up. Because he had just donated $47 million to a local hospital, anonymously. His name was Ronald Reed, a gas station attendant and janitor who quietly, silently, built an $8.1 million fortune and almost nobody knew. And here's what nobody tells you about that. That's not the exception. That's the rule. The richest people in the world are the ones you've never seen. And the ones you see the most, they're usually trying to survive. And once you understand why, once you truly understand the psychology behind this, your entire relationship with money, status, and success will never be the same again. So if you're serious about changing the way you think and live, take a second right now to like this video and subscribe to Mindluent. Because what you're about to hear might be one of the most important things you'll ever learn about wealth. Let's start with something uncomfortable. We live in a world that rewards performance. Not results, performance. You post the vacation, you buy the car, you wear the watch. Not necessarily because it makes your life better, but because it makes other people believe your life is better. And somewhere along the way, we confuse the signal with the thing itself. We started chasing the appearance of wealth instead of wealth. And that one mistake, that single psychological confusion, is keeping millions of people broke their entire lives. Here's where things get interesting. There's a concept that behavioral economists call signaling. And at its core, it means that humans use external things to communicate their internal status. The watch, the car, the designer bag, all of it is communication. It's a message to the world that says, I've made it, I matter, I'm someone. And that desire? It's deeply human. It goes back thousands of years. In ancient societies, people would wear the skin of the most powerful animals to show dominance. Today, we wear Supreme hoodies and drive leased BMWs. Different era, same instinct. But here's what most people never realize. The truly wealthy figured out something the rest of the world never did. That showing off is actually a symptom. It's not a sign of success, it's a sign of insecurity. And that changes everything. Think about this for a second. When you feel completely confident in who you are, when you know exactly what you have and exactly where you're going, you don't need anyone else's validation. A man who knows he's strong doesn't need to flex. A man who knows he's intelligent doesn't need to argue. And a man who knows he's wealthy, he doesn't need to spend money to prove it. The need to show off is the need to be seen. And the need to be seen comes from a fear of not being enough. Now let me tell you about someone else. A woman named Grace. She grew up in a working-class neighborhood in Ohio. Her family wasn't poor, but they weren't comfortable either. Money was a constant source of stress. When she got her first real job in her 20s and started making decent money, the first thing she did was buy a brand new car. Not because she needed it, because she needed her neighbors to see it parked in the driveway. And for a few weeks, it felt incredible. People complimented her. She felt important. But then the payments started, and the insurance, and the maintenance. And slowly, every month, that car was eating her future alive. Grace was earning more than she ever had, and somehow, she had less than ever before. That's not a unique story. That's America's story. The average American with a six-figure income has less than $1,000 in savings. Not because they don't make enough, but because the money they make goes straight into maintaining an image. And here's the brutal truth. Nobody actually cares. The people you're trying to impress are too busy worrying about what you think of them. It's performance for an audience that isn't even watching. But the wealthy know this, and they use it to their advantage. Drop a comment below right now and tell me honestly, Have you ever bought something just to impress someone else? Because I guarantee you're not alone. And admitting it is the first step to breaking free from it. Let's talk about what actually happens inside the minds of people who've built real, lasting wealth. And I'm not talking about lottery winners or trust fund kids. I'm talking about self-made, first-generation wealth. The kind that starts from nothing and builds into something undeniable. These people share almost identical psychological patterns. And one of the most consistent patterns is this. They stopped caring about what things looked like and started obsessing over what things produced. Warren Buffett, worth over $100 billion, still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,000. He drives himself to McDonald's for breakfast, not because he can't afford better, because he genuinely doesn't care what it looks like. He cares about what works. And what works for building wealth almost always looks boring from the outside. Ingvar Kamprad, the founder of IKEA, one of the wealthiest humans to ever walk this planet, flew economy class until he was in his 80s. He drove a 20-year-old Volvo. He recycled his tea bags. And his explanation was simple. He said wasting resources was morally wrong. To him, every dollar spent on appearance was a dollar that wasn't working. And when your money is always working, it compounds. And when it compounds long enough, you reach a level of wealth that is simply incomprehensible to people who spent it all on looking rich. But that's not the most important part of this story. Because it's not just about saving money. It's about something much deeper. It's about who you become when you stop needing external approval. There's a psychological study from UCLA that followed two groups of people over 10 years. One group was heavily motivated by extrinsic rewards: status, money, appearance, and approval. The other group was driven by intrinsic values: growth, purpose, connection, and mastery. And at the end of 10 years, the intrinsically motivated group had higher income, better relationships, better health, and significantly higher life satisfaction. The people chasing the image ended up with neither the image nor the life. The people building the substance ended up with both. Here's where things get really uncomfortable. Because the culture we live in is specifically, deliberately designed to keep you spending. The luxury industry is a machine built to convert your insecurity into their profit. Every ad you see, every influencer you follow, every highlight reel on social media is engineered to make you feel like you're behind. Like you're missing something. Like you need to buy your way into belonging. And it works. Globally, people spend trillions of dollars every year on things they don't need, to impress people they don't like, with money they don't have. And the people who own those luxury brands? They don't spend money like their customers. They make money from their customers. There's the real lesson. The wealthy aren't just playing a different game. They're playing a different sport entirely. While most people are in a race to spend, the wealthy are in a race to build. While most people are buying liabilities that drain money every month, the wealthy are buying assets that produce money every month. And while most people are trying to look like they've arrived, the wealthy already know they've arrived. So they have nothing to prove. Think about the last time you felt truly secure. Maybe it was after a win at work. Maybe it was after a deep conversation with someone who really understood you. Maybe it was a quiet Sunday morning when everything just felt okay. In that moment, you didn't need a new car. You didn't need a designer belt. You were enough. That feeling? That's what real wealth actually buys. Not the thing, the feeling underneath the thing. And the dangerous secret the wealthy keep is this. You can get to that feeling without spending a single dollar more than you already have. You get there through mindset, through discipline, through a redefinition of what success actually looks like for you. And here's what that shift looks like in real life. A 26-year-old named Marcus lived in a small apartment in Chicago. He made $42,000 a year working in logistics. Every one of his friends had nicer things than him: Newer phones, better cars, designer shoes. And for a long time, Marcus tried to keep up. He bought things on credit. He said yes to expenses he couldn't afford. And he felt empty every time, because the things never filled the gap. And then one day, he read a book. Just one book. And in it, a line changed his life. The line was this: stop trying to look wealthy and start trying to think wealthy. And Marcus stopped. He cancelled subscriptions. He cooked at home. He drove his old car without embarrassment. He redirected every free dollar into index funds. Quietly, consistently, without telling anyone. 5 years later, Marcus had over $60,000 invested. He still lived in the same apartment, still drove the same car, but something was different. He wasn't trying to impress anyone anymore, and paradoxically, people started noticing him differently. Because confidence looks different from the outside when you're no longer performing it. When it's real, people feel it. That's the thing nobody talks about. Real confidence is magnetic. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. The person who walks into a room quietly, who listens more than they talk, who doesn't feel the need to prove anything, that person commands attention without demanding it. And that's what old money has always known that new money hasn't figured out yet. That restraint is power. That silence is influence. That the person who needs the least approval holds the most. And if you know someone who needs to hear this today, share this video with them, because this information could genuinely change the direction of their financial life. Not because it teaches them how to invest or which stocks to buy, but because it rewires the psychology underneath everything. The strategy is useless without the foundation. So let's bring this all together, because we've covered a lot, and I want to make sure this lands the way it should. The reason rich people don't show off isn't because they're humble. It's not because they're playing some kind of social game. It's because they've done something most people never do. They've separated their identity from their possessions. They know who they are without the watch, without the car, without the likes. And when you know who you are, you stop needing the world to confirm it. You stop spending energy performing and start spending energy building. And that energy, redirected, is what actually builds wealth. Think about where you are right now. Not just financially, but mentally. Ask yourself honestly, how much of what you spend is for you? And how much is for the idea of you? How much of your stress is about real problems? And how much is about maintaining an image that's costing you your future? These are hard questions, but they're the most important questions you'll ever ask yourself. Because the answers will reveal exactly what's standing between where you are and where you want to be. The average person spends 40 years working to afford a lifestyle designed to impress people they barely know. The wealthy spend a decade building assets that fund a life they actually want, surrounded by people who actually matter. Same planet, completely different reality. And the gap between those two lives isn't intelligence. It isn't luck. It isn't even talent. It's mindset. It's the willingness to be invisible for long enough to become undeniable. Ronald Reed, the janitor who gave away $47 million, wasn't lucky. He wasn't a genius. He simply made a decision decades before he died that he was done performing. Done spending to belong. And that decision, repeated quietly every single day for the rest of his life, compounded into something the world couldn't ignore. Even though he never asked the world to notice. That's the final truth. The people who need the least attention get the most respect. The people who build in silence create the loudest legacies. And the people who master the art of not showing off are the ones who end up with the most to show. You don't have to keep performing. You don't have to keep spending to be seen. You are already enough. And the moment you truly believe that, everything changes. Your spending changes. Your saving changes. Your relationships change. Your energy changes. And slowly, quietly, Without anyone watching, your life changes. Start there. Start today. Start with one decision to build instead of perform. And then make that same decision again tomorrow and the day after that. Because that's all it takes. One quiet, consistent decision. Repeated until the world has no choice but to notice what you've built. This is Mindluent, and we'll see you in the next one.